The federal government loses up to $521 billion annually to fraud.
Politicians create programs to help the needy, and lots of the money gets stolen.
Since 2020, fraudsters have taken at least $36 billion and as much as $3 trillion.
It's easier to get people on benefits than it is to get people off benefits.
Andrew McClenahan's nonprofit works to stop fraud.
We support the prevention, investigation, and prosecution of welfare fraud.
McClenahan says part of the problem is that agencies are judged on how quickly they give money out, but they rarely check whether it goes to the right people.
So you're measuring the success by the amount of money you put out.
President Biden said, "We will catch cheaters."
My message to those cheats out there is this: you can't hide. We're going to find you.
But they rarely do.
We can't find $150 billion.
There's nothing you can do when you're giving out that much money.
Sure you can. It takes less than a second to verify things with data connections these days.
But Elon Musk at Doge learned the government seldom uses modern data connections. Many records are stored not on computers, but on paper, here, underground.
There's a limestone mine where we store all the retirement paperwork. This mine looks like something out of the 50s. So it looks like it's like a time warp.
They're relying on rules and regulations that were written for pen and paper in the 1970s and 80s.
$1.26 million. What was that money spent to earn any kids?
Minnesota recently became the visible example of how easily programs are exploited. And government officials didn't uncover that. This YouTuber did.
I've come by this place 100 times. I've never seen a child here, ever.
It's weird that this kid does what all these government investigators didn't do.
There was articles back in 2018 talking about the millions of dollars in suitcases being flown out of Minneapolis and the widespread fraud that's up there. But it took a 20-year-old with an iPhone to go in there and expose it on Twitter.
Hello, we'd like to ask where the money's going.
Once Nick Shirley publicized the fraud, the White House froze billions in welfare payments.
What they are doing is creating confusion, chaos, trying to intimidate people.
Progressives defend all the handouts.
There is no reason for them to fully stop funding these programs. The only reason they are doing that is for PR purposes.
This is on my watch. I am accountable for this.
But Minnesota's governor allowed it to go on for years. He blames the laws.
These are poorly written, and it left openings, and the goal was to get the money out.
They sure did that. As long as you're giving out millions in handouts, there's going to be lots of fraud. There's no way to stop it.
You're not wrong, John. In fact, during COVID, we saw it with the unemployment insurance.
I just been swiping for EDD. Go to the bank, get a stack at least.
EDD is California's unemployment insurance.
I got a shot at the Donald Trump. I just might swipe me alone, so.
Swipe money President Trump rushed out to states for pandemic relief.
Stealing from the government has been glorified for decades.
$24 billion was lost on homelessness spending, $55 billion during the pandemic.
Fraud goes on in every state.
$250 billion.
$120 million.
$21 million stolen in just Illinois.
Some stolen funds allegedly went to terrorists.
Ending up in the pockets of al-Shabaab, an al-Qaeda-linked terror group operating out of Somalia.
Everybody knows that the United States is the easiest game in town.
These are American programs. People in those other countries aren't eligible.
That's right. But if you're not checking to see where somebody lives, where they're applying from, who they are, you're not going to find them. We literally rang the dinner bell for the whole world, and they answered.
But most of the stealing is done by Americans.
A scheme to steal $250 million from a federal program that was meant to provide meals for low-income kids.
These scammers collected funds for meals never served. They used it to buy cars, expensive purses, jewelry. They did go to jail, and so did that rapper. But that's unusual, since the handouts mostly come from the federal government, not local taxpayers. Many state politicians are not so eager to detect fraud. There's a profit motive in allowing fraud.
States get to retain a share of the recoveries that they have, but they don't get any rewards for stopping it.
President Trump recently gave investigators more access to state data so fraud could be better tracked. And states are obeying this?
They're actively suing the government.
California is one of 20 states suing the Trump administration over its attempt to get that sensitive information about low-income people who receive SNAP benefits.
Government giving out trillions in handouts does create bad incentives.
Unconditional war on poverty in America.
Before our government started welfare payments, Americans had been steadily lifting themselves out of poverty. Welfare barely changed the slope of the line, but what it did do within a few years was stop progress. Handouts taught some Americans to stay dependent on government.
Food stamps, it's just food. It's like food.
So what should be done? McClenahan says, verify eligibility first. That way you prevent fraud before the money goes out. And if people want to keep getting benefits,
you've got to be looking for a job, volunteering, or at least getting job training. The best welfare program, John, is a job.
To help us keep government accountable and keep exposing waste, please click that button.